Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, now you're awake. Thank you. All right. I'd like to congratulate the East Bay EDA for pulling together this incredible event, and particularly say thank you to Keith Sutton and the other staff for putting in the hard work to make this possible. And of course, I also want to thank our partners and sponsors, Wells Fargo and the other sponsors who made this possible today. The Small Business Administration relies on partners like the sponsors that we have here today, as well as East Bay EDA, to get out the information about how to start a business and grow a business. And although I served as President Obama's voice for small business in the western states that you've heard, my particular passion is right here in the East Bay. I was also raised in Berkeley and went to high school just down the street at Berkeley High School. Go Yellow Jackets! So I particularly am invested in seeing small businesses here in the East Bay thrive. I'm really excited to see so many local small businesses here in the room today. After all, you are the ones that make our local economy and our national economy grow and succeed. And our job at the Small Business Administration is to help to provide you the tools to enhance your success. We do this through what we call the 3 C's: contracting, counseling, and capital. I'll start with capital because, of course, any small business that wants to start or grow needs that capital to survive. Last year, the SBA had a record year. We put over $30 billion worth of loans into the hands of small business owners. Second, counseling. If you don't already have an SBA-affiliated counselor, and we've got a number of our resource partners here today from the Small Business Development Centers and SCORE, I really encourage you to get one. We have 14,000 counselors around the country who can help you for free with everything from putting together a business plan to figuring out how to increase your online presence to even exiting your business if that's what you choose to do. And finally, our 3rd C, contracts. Our goal is to get 23% of contracts into the hands of small business. And as you heard from Supervisor Carson, he was an 8A contractor at one point. That's one of our certification programs. But 23% translates to $100 billion a year. So that's real money into the hands of our small businesses. If you want more information about our program, Mark Quinn from our San Francisco District Office is here. Mark, do you want to raise your hand? So talk to Mark or me, or you can go online at www.sba.gov. Well, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce a local success story. A person just like you, who's lived and worked in the East Bay all of his life, someone who came to a lot of events like this, and you got information and inspiration to start a small business. His success started with a really bad April Fool's Day, and unfortunately, it was no joke. In 1990, Jim got laid off, and it took him a while to bounce back, in fact, about 2 years. He acknowledges that this was a wake-up call for him. He struggled through the bewilderment of losing his career in corporate finance, but eventually he found a path to entrepreneurship. And along the way, he came to events just like this one to help him learn how to make his business a success. Like all entrepreneurs, he had challenges to overcome. Writing was not a natural talent. He's a numbers guy. And public speaking was also not something that was required in his career. This will come as a surprise to you in a minute when you hear him speak. Jim did something incredible. He simplified that dreaded business plan to a 1-page process, turned it into a book, and created web software. Over the last 12 years, he built a global cottage industry, serving everybody from early-stage entrepreneurs to Fortune 100 executives. The name of his company is the 1-Page Business Plan Company. His company has over 500 coaches, trainers, and consultants who market, sell, and implement his planning system. Jim is the product of our local Small Business Development Center and One Stop system in Oakland. He swapped ideas with people at networking events and learned how to present workshops at the Oakland One Stop Center. He built confidence through these interactions and help grow his business so that he could help you grow yours. I'm sure that being an entrepreneur or owning a small business is not easy. I know you know that. There's so much to learn and so many challenges to overcome. But there is help, and the fact that you're here today shows that you know that help is available. Events like this offer resources, contacts, and opportunities to interact and gain information about how you can make your business more successful. So I hope you take advantage of today's event and other events like it, and take some inspiration from what our speaker has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to this native son and East Bay small business hero, Jim Moran.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, I feel like I'm home. I'm back amongst friends. I've met many of you. I've seen a lot of faces that I haven't seen for a while. In fact, I've seen some people here today that I probably met 20 years ago, and I said, you know, I think we both had more hair and it had more color the last time I saw you. I want to applaud you for being here. This is where we come together as entrepreneurs and business owners and learn from each other. And I think one of the things that most people that aren't entrepreneurs or small business owners don't understand is how collaborative the small business community is. We're much more collaborative than we are competitive. It's one of the things that I've learned. So I want to thank all the organizations that making today possible. I want to personally thank Oscar Dominguez. I haven't seen Oscar. Is he here? Yes. Oscar is a trained and licensed one-page business plan consultant. He's been using our books and our process with low-income entrepreneurs for years and years, and he's helped start and launch hundreds of businesses with single-page business plans. So, you know, my wife is a former attorney turned nurse in her 40s, and she reminds me on a really frequent basis that before you give any advice, you have to ask if people would like some help. That's kind of a clue. How many people here are looking for some help this morning? Okay. How many of you, I'm curious, so I can just fine-tune my remarks a little bit, how many have product businesses? Okay, so how many have service businesses? Okay, all righty. I've got both, and I'm curious, how many have brand new businesses that frankly are probably less than 6 months old, just kind of getting started, maybe from 6 months to 2 years? Okay, and over 2 years? All righty, good. Does anybody here need more business? Does anybody here hate cold calling? Okay. All right. So I want to jump right in because you would think that somebody that has built a global cottage industry around something called the one-page business plan has learned how to be concise. Well, I finished preparation yesterday for a 3-hour workshop, and I was more worried about what I was going to say in 15 minutes this morning. But what I want to talk to you about is stress-free sales and marketing. I have never made a cold call. I just don't do it, and I've learned it's actually not necessary. And I've learned that when I go into that kind of mode, that actually I steer business away. So I want to share with you 3 or 4 of my tips on how I have built my business and how I've done it in what I think is a stress-free way. And these are easy, practical things to do. And as I was thinking about it, I was thought to be the 4 S's of stress-free sales and marketing. I probably have 10 of them, but I'm going to share 3 or 4 of them. Number one thing for all entrepreneurs and business owners is you must be supported. You must surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. And I happened to, 20 years ago, I was a couple of years into my business, was introduced to something called the Bay Area Entrepreneurs Association. It no longer exists, but it was a group of 15 to 20 entrepreneurs that came together every 2 weeks for 75 minutes. It was entrepreneurs teaching entrepreneurship or learning entrepreneurship from others. How many people are in some type of entrepreneur or business owner support group? Okay, we've got a few of you. I'm talking about some, we are in leads groups. Okay, I'm talking about something very different than a leads group, but this is where you come together and you learn about each other's business. When I came up with the concept of the one-page business plan, my support group, I took it to them, I said, I have this wild and crazy idea of simplifying the business plan to a single page. What do you think? And they said, Jim, we think you've got something here and you need to go to public speaking. I said, oh, you gotta be kidding. I don't do that. And they said, get over it, and they introduced me to people. What began to happen is audiences, first, second talk I did, people were asking if I had a book. I went back to my support group and said, what do I do? They said, Jim, you need to write a book. I said, look, I was a numbers guy. They introduced me to the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association. All of my critical products, all of my key products came from my support group. If you don't have one, if you're not in one, find one or start one. Because what will happen is these people will do your sales and marketing for you. Okay, that's the first test. The second one is you have to be seen, you have to see and be seen. You're here, you're going to meet some amazing people. I've already met 5 or 6 people this morning in the 10 minutes before, and had some great conversations. I want to tell you a very short story about a friend of mine down in Houston who used to live here in the Bay Area. And his position was eliminated a couple of years ago. He's right on the cusp of retirement and decided he didn't want to get another job. He said, I'm going to restart. I had a consulting business. I'm going to start a consulting business. And after about 3 or 4 months, he was frustrated, and in fact, he was a bit angry that he wasn't getting business. And I listened to him, and I came up with this thought came to my mind. I said to him, kid, I think your full-time job is to learn about Houston in a new and a different way. I said, you have known Houston as a corporate executive. Now you're an independent consultant, you're an entrepreneur. Your full-time job is to go out and learn about Houston in a new and a different way. And I said, what will happen as you begin to learn about Houston, Houston will begin to learn about you. And I says, Houston will begin to buy from you when Houston knows you well enough. And so my thought for him, and I said, if you're not getting enough business, I'm going to suggest to you that Houston doesn't know you well enough. He's now in the 2.5-year mark. He's got a nice little flow of business. He's been out there, he's looking, he's meeting people, he's being seen, and he's now got a flow of business. My suggestion to you is if you don't have enough business, you're not looking, you're not out, you're not being seen, you don't have a compelling story that you're sharing with people, and it's frankly very easy to do. One of the things that I did is I took a look at the EDA, and I looked at the list of major employers in the East Bay. I gotta tell you, this is absolutely stunning. I don't know how many, we're talking AT&T, University of California, counties of Alameda, Contra Costa, Safeway, Lawrence, Livermore, it just goes on and on and on, and I suspect this has got to add up to 150,000. One of the things that we forget as small business owners is these big companies are our economic engines, and they buy all sorts of products and services from little companies. They buy all sorts of products and services from little companies. You need to take a look at this list. You need to get really clear about your products and services. You need to be out and about in your community and see how you can be of service. I actually don't have a good S for this one, but one of the keys, I think, to stress-free sales, marketing and sales, is asking really good questions. One of the things I find is far too many entrepreneurs, when you meet them, they want to begin to instantly do a monologue about their product and service and how good it is and so forth. And how do they even know that I care? Get really, I can see we have lots of, everybody understands exactly what I'm talking about. Get really good at asking very, very provocative questions. Get to the place where you will ask questions that you hold back and you're resistant to asking. And one of the questions, I'll just give you one example, one that I came up with 3 years ago. I was on the phone with a business owner that had a pretty significant company, and he was belly aching about the dysfunctionality within his company. And keep the story short, in about 40 minutes I said, I've had enough of this to myself. I've got to end this phone call. Even if he wants my services, I don't think I really want him as a client. And I said, Fred, I said, questions come to my mind. I need to ask you this question. I said, but it's a difficult question to ask. He says, well, what is it? I said, you've been talking about the dysfunctionality in your company for 40 minutes. My question is, what part of that dysfunctionality are you personally responsible for? That's not a safe question. That is not a safe question. There was a long pregnant pause. He goes, he says, I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about that. He says, you know, nobody has ever asked me a question like that. And he actually did not turn out to be a client that was fine. But part of what I was doing is I was demonstrating the kind of work we would be doing together if we were going to do it. When we ask these types of provocative questions, I think we sell by the questions that we ask, not by the answers that we give. Okay? So if you don't have a menu of really provocative questions that demonstrate the value of your product or service, I think you're missing the boat. And if you're in front of a prospect, if you're talking more than 25% of the time, you're talking too much. This is really about understanding, getting people to talk. There's all sorts of businesses that are looking for your expertise, okay? It's your job to make it easy for them to find you. Far too many entrepreneurs are stingy. Don't be stingy. How many people have go to Costco and see all the men and women out there in their white coats and go up and get the samples? I love the Scampy lady. You know, I love to get the 1/4 of 1 ounce. It's this tiny little bite size, right? And then I buy the 5-pound bag. Okay? I think particularly for all of you professional services folks, but it's the same thing with the product people. It's about being smart. It's being smart with the use of free. And what I found is that there's all sorts of ways when we do things for free, we're making it easy for people to understand who we are, what is the value of our product and services. There's lots of different ways to create these initial trials. I want to demonstrate how not to be stingy. I think you have a bookkeeping business. Would you like a book?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to give you a book, but I'd actually like to give you 2 books. And one for you, and one for you to find to give to somebody today that you think would find of value. When's the last time you saw anybody give away 2 books?
Never.
What business are you in, Tracy? Consulting. The one-page business plan for the professional consultant. Do you work with any entrepreneurs?
Yes, I have a business partner here.
So if can I offer you 2 books?
Yes, you can.
And during today, can you find somebody